Where did Father Sung Ti come from? And slap one of them. You bastard, hurry up. Kneel down. Do you know where this is and dare to be so arrogant? Not only that, but countless other people successively gathered in the southern heavenly troople. Seeing this scene, Nam Garrick was speechless. After that, the party was held. Very hearty preparation. Not only the top people but even the lowest subordinates are very well enlightened. In addition, Cha Sung Ti also called Duksu to personally make delicious dishes. Maybe Black Cat Unio was the most peaceful at this time when the master had personally invited everyone one by one. At this time he was already drunk, so he immediately paid attention to those three unfortunate names. If he didn't understand, he would have to pay attention. How should I punish them? I couldn't think of anything, but Lee JaHa took the bottle and walked over to talk. When they recognized the gang leader, they gently introduced themselves as coming from the southern heavenly troople. But he didn't pay much attention to these words in his ears. And then he thought of something, so he called So Gun Pyong. So Gun Pyong, please come here and drink quickly, come have a drink with me. But it seemed like he was so drunk that he couldn't control himself anymore. The male lead continued to go outside to enjoy the atmosphere. Just like that he wandered around and rambling on about things that no one understands. Big senior brother, today seems like you've had a bit too much to drink. Seeing the boss of the 12 divine generals, the male lead doesn't have any difficulty at all. I just asked him to keep drinking until he couldn't drink anymore. After saying that, he gave me the wine bottle to hold for a while. Junior brother, can you lend me your sword for a while? Is that okay? Just looking at this scene, I know that the male lead is preparing to do another musical performance. He immediately went to the familiar apricot tree and said loudly, "Brothers of Jaha Clan, this is Lee JaHa. Born in Ilyong town, originally from a street cleaner, but the inn was burned and that burned inn was the beginning of Jaha Clan. That fire moved to my heart, until now I'm still struggling. I was originally just an ordinary man, very vile, evil and useless. But because I am weak, from now on Jaha Clan will stand for the weak. No need for any reason, if you're weak then you're my brother. It doesn't matter if you come from a righteous path or anything, we're all family. Whether they are ordinary people without martial arts skills or weak beauties, orphaned babies are all my brothers." Lee JaHa's intention is to say that everyone who submits themselves at his feet I will protect everything. Although my strength is still lacking, it is still much better than the masters in the world. Yesterday I was also lucky to regulate my breath. The day before yesterday I also did the same. The other day I spent a long time training with my Black Cat Union brothers. Not long ago I also happened to receive advice about swords from a senior in the Jonghu. I am a man who gets stronger every day and is the master of Jaha Clan Lee JaHa. Going back and forth, the male protagonist's intention is to do some swordsmanship for everyone to expand their horizons. I will show my brothers here the swordsmanship that I have been practicing recently. Having said that, the male lead jumped into the air, making everyone look at him. You did something amazing. The strong impact force caused countless apricot flower petals to fall to the ground. After that, he immediately performed extremely variable sword movements. Just slashing up and then down, creating very perfect-looking animations. Beautiful. Not only that, but it seems to have mixed a bit of artistic quality. Countless falling flower petals seemed to have magical power and surrounded his body. The sword was in at some point in his hand. A blazing fire immediately radiated. And of course this sword technique was the apricot sword technique. More specifically, it was the lightning sword form, apricot blossom sword technique. Not only does he use swordsmanship, but somewhere in his body there is also a bit of internal energy to add to the excitement. The fallen flower petals all around seem to have been burned. Just like that, Lee JaHa glides back and forth to make a gesture very similar to that of a knight. He also deliberately showed a very satisfied face. Most of the subordinates below applauded endlessly about the level of purchase. The master's sword. Dear disciples, please take care because I am the master of Jaha Clan. Having finished speaking, all the people below stood up to perform the final salute. The scene ended. After seeing this extremely pleasing performance, he went down and returned the sword to White Tiger. Perhaps in his mind he felt very satisfied because he had chosen a worthy monarch. Next was Cha Sung Ti brought out the wine to serve privately because his boss bought it so beautifully. The two of them continued to drink together, looking very affectionate. While drinking, Lee JaHa also promised many things to him. You can't die and you have to survive to practice hard. Seeing this scene, old Byuk went out to intervene because the master was very drunk in the sect. Thank you for your words. With that advice, he also went to the corner of tomorrow and actively meditated. Still in the same positions as in the beginning to regulate the body's energy. In just a blink of an eye, all the spiritual energy from inside his body was emitted to the outside. With extremely abundant internal energy, he was able to completely escape all the alcohol concentration. Feeling awake and no longer dizzy. Besides, I informed my juniors about a few things. I'm sober so you guys can drink freely today and let me guard you. As expected, everyone has to do their best because it's very difficult. It's rare for a sect master to be so easygoing. To let his subordinates continue to drink, the male main character went in and arrested 3 guys from the Southern Heavenly Trouble to reveal all the related events. I'm here to ask Black Cat Unio to join the war on the orders of the Southern Heavenly Trouble Master. What is the reason I have to go to war in my name and on whose behalf? When asked this question, the man with a hairy mouth did not dare to answer because he himself did not dare to ask the interlocutor. In that case, please convey a few questions from me to Dohang Saw. If you dare to act so rudely again, I will personally find him. They began to obey and sighed when the male lead let them go home. Please leave Black Cat Unio so I can take you home. Wait for you to get out. But that guy said he didn't need the sect master's hard work. With his personality, the male lead didn't allow them any choice. Just so he guided the 3 unfortunate, black men out of his area. In the end, the party passed smoothly until the next morning. While preparing to go for a walk, Cha Sung Ti arrived. Ran out from somewhere and wanted to go with Lee JaHa. But he was afraid that the quiet atmosphere would be disturbed by it, so he didn't allow him to follow. And then his face was all grimaced because he felt uncomfortable. Respect. Suddenly, in the distance, it seemed like there was a dark shadow watching the two of them. It's unclear what the purpose was, but this person was constantly taking notes in a small notebook. And it's not clear whose orders he was following to risk his life to such an extent. Inside, everything was written down describing Lee JaHa's personality and voice in detail. But one thing to sum it up is that he is very ugly. After work, that guy went to an upstairs to meet a mysterious person. The River Walkers is such a good name for a group of killers. Surely this is the name of the group of people who just followed Lee JaHa. The other guy continued to pull out a chest containing many valuable gold bars. He had requested, this group of assassins must go get the male lead's head. But if it's too difficult, then just kill it temporarily and bring it back to confirm it. This is the person who dared to anger the guild master at first glance in him. This is also a lie, isn't it? I will consult further, please give me the network content certificate. Be careful, it was Lee JaHa who killed the great Rakshasa and Mr. Su. After hearing that, he also seemed very surprised and a bit cautious. Even though I have not met him directly. But at a glance at his appearance, it seems that this guy is also very crazy. Then the masked guy started to be surprised when looking at the other person's drawing. These are the eyes of a crazy person. Someone who draws this appearance is too focused on his eyes, isn't it? Just saying this, everything is over and I don't know what will happen after that. As for Lee JaHa, right now I'm deliciously eating breakfast. Not only eating in the area, but today I'm in the mood to go out to the streets to hang around. Almost everyone in town knows about my reputation. So when he entered any restaurant, almost no one dared to charge. He temporarily put another cake in his pocket and Lee JaHa had already left. While wandering around, he happily sang hums a few incomprehensible tunes. In a nearby dark corner, that strange name continues to follow very closely. Perhaps his purpose is to take the life of the leader of Jaha Clan. This guy then also went into a restaurant to plot his plans. Very quickly, the second man inside ran out to ask if he wanted anything. Give me a bottle of rice wine and a bottle of rice wine. Plate of boiled peanuts. After hearing this, he asked the guests to wait a bit to prepare. The experts in the past often had to dig deep dungholes to hide here to track their targets, but the river walkers were not like that. The most important thing is that they just go about their activities naturally. When they're eating or drinking or something like that is when they let down their guard and are the right time to attack. Thinking of this, the second child happily brought out the food. Then he saw Lee JaHa and said hello. Not only did he say hello, but he also hurriedly went outside to respectfully pay respects. Where are you going, clan leader? Hearing that your job is to inspect, explore, wander around sightseeing, you have to admire it. A person who can do many things at once is there only the gang leader? While talking, I saw diners drinking wine inside and drew many things. I haven't drank alcohol these past few days, so do you want to have a cup of rice wine? I would invite, but Lee JaHa has quit drinking since yesterday. Seeing the target to be assassinated, the river walkers were sweating for fear of being recognized. Lee JaHa's reason for quitting drinking was because for a few days before eating and drinking, a few of my subordinates vomited all over the manor, so now I'm still sick. That night I had to stand guard alone all night, so I was very tired. What nonsense did he do? What's wrong? Do subordinates drink alcohol and still have a gang leader to guard them? There is such a strange morality in this gang. Why does the gang leader have to guard his subordinates from drinking? That's my intention and you've worked hard. If you see any strange guy, please let me know. After saying that, Lee JaHa left, but the other guy's eyes still followed closely. Seeing such a leisurely walk, he felt uncomfortable in his mind. He just thought to himself that he was truly an incurable madman. Was it the first time he met our gang leader? Tiu Ni's voice rang out, breaking his evil thoughts. That person just now is the Black Cat gang leader, right? I heard you had to wear a mask. That's the old gang boss because he's dead. Hearing this, the river walkers didn't ask any more questions but just taciturnly poured wine into the cup. Tiu, the second person, continued to ask the new customers' feelings and what they thought about this leader. Between the Supreme Sword Association and the Southern Heavenly Truple, which side do you think will win? Everyone seems to be very interested in that battle. Right. Shouldn't we drink and talk at the same time, so let's give Tiu Nhi a cup. Without needing his customer's consent, he immediately pulled out the cup. Although didn't want to, but the assassin reluctantly poured it for him. And then he also wanted to see what this person thought would win. There was no need to answer that question, Tiu Nhi did it. Just one bowl and it's all gone. First of all, whether they win or lose, the Supreme Sword Association will be destroyed. There are rumors that the previous gang leader will not let them go. The reason is because the Supreme Sword Association is so evil. They only know how to use money to hire assassins. What a bunch of trash. Southern Heavenly Truple joint owner Dohang Saw wants to fight with a one-on-one mentality like the experts in The Wanderer, so our gang leader will destroy the Supreme Sword Association first. But while he was talking excitedly here, the male protagonist's voice rang out. He asked Tiu Nhi to prepare a bottle of wine because he was so thirsty that he was about to die. When he saw the gang leader coming in, he immediately put down the glass of wine and immediately went to prepare something to eat. But it seems like this wasn't just about drinking alcohol. Or not. Lee JaHa immediately sat in front of the assassin. He didn't even bother to say hello, he just wanted to know where he came from. I'm from Shiping County looking for an acquaintance, so there's no problem. But how can lies like this deceive the male lead? He slammed the dagger in his body onto the table and asked him to reveal the identity of the person who sent him. The assassin's face began to sweat out of fear. In the previous part, the river walkers sent an assassin to assassinate Lee JaHa but was discovered. He was kept at the tavern till the male protagonist conveniently exploits information. If a young man dares to talk nonsense to the owner of a manjung shop, then it's normal to turn around and look. If there is an adult with a mandarin in his mouth, he will turn around. Looking back is also normal. When someone sings a strange song, the psychology of normal people will turn their heads to look, but those who do not react to the above three things will not normal at all. That shows that your training is correct. Although these assessments are a bit lame and difficult to understand, the assassin did not dare to open his mouth. Killing you isn't difficult, but then it will be troublesome. If I keep killing and killing, your leader still won't appear. But I will endure and your leader will pay the price for my patience. Lee JaHa still feels crazy, and this is the intention of the crazy ghost, so even if I stop him, I will do it. What if I kill the leader of the river walkers? This I really don't want pitiful bastards like you to appear again, so that seems like a good way. What do you think? Even though that question sounds like the male lead stole the assassin's words, most of the time the assassins are all orphans like you. If you're not an orphan, they will kill everyone around you and turn you into an orphan, because if you have a loved one, your emotions will be very chaotic. So people like you who don't have emotions won't understand what I'm saying. Lee JaHa coldly apologize for saying these confusing words. It's true that I put an end to you, but it's not because of me that you died, it was because of you. By the person who created the river walkers. Remember this, and death is the fate of an assassin. Assassins always have to follow orders, right, but no one has to live like that. Then, as if he understood the madness, he sighed in acceptance because his hands were stained with too much blood, not daring to complain about his fate. What a pitiful human being. What I want to know is the headquarters of the river walkers. If you can't speak, don't blame me. I had to walk for a long time because of you, drawing my sword. After listening, his eyes glanced at the dagger stuck on the table. That's too much. Many opposing thoughts in his head because the knife will be the thing that decides this guy's fate. So the assassin rolled his eyes in Lee JaHa's direction as an answer. The male protagonist of We quickly pulled out the sword we had in our hands and then retracted the sheath. No one saw anything, only noticed a very long cut line printed on the assassin's body. His legs. His body no longer had any strength and fell down as his upper body was cut off. The sound of a body being split in half rang out and blood also sprayed out in all directions. If you pay close attention, the victim's face seemed more shocked than in pain. In times like these, killing someone without causing pain is probably considered a blessing. It's still an indescribable feeling of uncertainty when making a mistake. Repeating this 1,000 times. The sound of swords being sheathed again and again created a gloomy atmosphere inside the tavern where he was the only customer. When anger was probably rising like a river, then Tunhi quickly ran over with a shocked look on his face and asked if it was really the killer. Don't touch him, there might be poison in his mouth or clothes, you shouldn't touch him. Body like this. I will send my subordinates here to clean up immediately, so please leave it like this for a while. As soon as I remind you, I will also give you a silver bar as food expenses. Knowing that this amount of money was used to pay for wine and table fees, but the young lady was confused when this amount of money was too much. Similar things like this will happen again, so for the time being, we will go out often. Compared to sleeping and being suddenly attacked, it's better to wander around and be careful, it will be easier to deal with. If you don't want it, you have to accept the money, but the boy continued to ask why. That's why the crazy demon knows that guy is an assassin. The villain only finds it strange because his face looks strange. Just look at it and see the two words killer clearly on his face. That is Lee JaHa's eyes still turned back to the corpse but only recognized the painful expression on his face. The crazy ghost had to smile bitterly and meaningfully leave because his work here was done. Tunhi also quickly pulled out the knife. Pick it up and give it back to him. Sticking a knife on the table with one strike kills your life. Since the gang leader did that, it was a very sublime psychological attack, wasn't it? Lee JaHa was just unintentional, so he responded out of bad luck habit. So the male lead continued to wander around the streets to check on the chaotic situation around town. A little while later, Father Sung Ti and his subordinates came to clean up according to what the gang leader instructed. Since then until now there have been no guests, so the second child was quite sad and asked after him. Some things. Does this guy look like an assassin? He looks so normal. Mr. Tu also grimaced and replied like a boss. Just by looking at him, I knew he was an assassin. Looking at him like that and not realizing it, what a shame. Pathetic name, the boy scratched his head again. It's true because the villain is a bit pathetic. Aren't you the Jaha Clan? Father Sung Ti said. Everyone knows this name but it's not everyone knows how to join. Up until now, your family has never accepted bribes, is that right? If you haven't done anything embarrassing and stole anyone's money, it's the Jaha Clan. Jonsam is now vaguely understanding that it's not difficult to join the Jaha Clan and become a subordinate, you just have to be kind. Okay. It's normal to flirt with children, but Cha Sung Ti has little chance. Because he's always looked down upon in this sect due to his poor martial arts skills and only knows how to pick up girls and bring them upstairs. Earn money. Johnsom is so stupid to talk to this person too much. I am the general butler of Jaha Clan, the second in command and also the one who laid the foundation for Jaha Clan along with the master, Father Sung Ti. Let's call him the most honest swordsman. In Johnsom's mind, he didn't worship at all, but just thought this guy was crazy or something. It's a pleasure to meet you, General Butler. Just looking at his face is enough to realize that he is an assassin. Cha Sung Ti smiled indifferently as if he was no less classy than Lee JaHa. This scammer dares to imitate the gang leader. Look, he's no different from the kids in the neighboring district. There's no way he's ranked second in Jaha Clan. Why do people look at me like that? I'm really an arrogant little guy. Not like that. So it's already like that, because the tone when he speaks is a bit like the gang leader, so it's a bit hard to hear. Oh, this guy is a liar. Cha Sung Ti frowned and wanted to punch him a few times. But thinking about his age, I haven't experienced life yet, so I'll forgive you next time. Otherwise, you'll be punished. Brothers, this body might be poisonous. Take it to a deserted place and burn it. After giving the order, turn around. When I asked the second child his full name, the boy said he was Johnsom. There is a high possibility that this assassin's accomplices will come here to investigate how he died. At that time you should just keep an eye on them. After listening, Johnsom immediately understood that he needed to silently observe and report back to the general butler. Just research and don't do dangerous actions. You will recognize them because their temperament is the same as theirs. This guy. How does the little guy know that it's an assassin? The little guy asked again and again. Assassins usually don't have emotions, so whoever looks cold in their eyes, just identify them. Okay. Johnsom started nodding to show more respect for the other person. Cha Sung Ti more or less showed off his authority to a boy and made him secretly admire. This was also more successful than expected. Waiting for the male lead's younger brother. After that, Cha Sung Ti and his subordinates left but didn't know where to go or what to do. Next, Johnsom sat outside the shop on the following Monday, just received a new mission and the boy considered this mission quite important. Father Sung Ti asked that everyone entering the shop be scrutinized, but the young man carried the tables and chairs out onto the street to sit securely. Countless martial artists passing by couldn't recognize who was the assassin. Some had squinted eyes, others had birth defects, it was too difficult to predict. Later, the baby accidentally encountered a man with the same expression as the sect master and the general said. Immediately Johnsom's eyes changed and realized that this person was most likely the assassin. There are too many thoughts running through my mind right now and it seems like I can't think anymore. Just making any suspicious move will cause the other person to take my life, so I'm sorry. Nhi quickly ran inside. Johnsom muttered into the assassin's mouth and his hands quickly wiped the table and chairs. It was not too difficult for that guy to recognize this expression and add a special detail. More importantly, that was the fact that he walked right into the shop because yesterday a teammate died here. Hearing that the other person wanted to ask something, Johnsom lowered his head in fear. Was it yesterday that a person died with just one stab of a knife? The boy was scared, his face was gray, and he didn't dare to deny it. He just said it was right, sir. After learning a lesson from the master and general butler, perhaps this junior also learned another lesson, which is the meaning of how scary normal looks like. He tried to point out about the place where the victim died, so the assassin sat right in front of the table and asked to do as he wanted. If that little guy doesn't want to die, then quickly sit down. Before the threat, Johnsom was also scared and obeyed. After a while, someone was outside and reported to the captain not to do that. He immediately chased away with a grim face because he was losing his mood. The servant bowed and asked permission to leave like that without ever saying a word. Johnsom also rolled his eyes but tried not to let him notice. The boy understood that there are many people right now that I've never seen before appeared in this area. While looking further, the assassin captain raised his voice again. Since you're the second child, mind your own business and don't be rude. It's easy to lose your life like that. Johnsom suddenly realized that what happened yesterday was just the prelude. Even the dead don't realize that they will become victims of this place, that it was both scary and curious. Then the words of the guy who looked like an assassin rang out to greet the master. When Johnsom raised his head, the boy really realized who that person was. Lee JaHa's sect master Jaha Clan came again, but his attitude was now quite warm. The male lead asked if the other party had been waiting for him for a long time. He didn't say much but just replied with a nonchalant attitude as soon as he arrived. Without having to invite anyone, Lee JaHa took the initiative to pull out a chair and asked Jeonsam to bring a jar of wine and a plate of boiled peanuts. A bunch of people came here today, right? They must have been very rude, but they still couldn't collect any information about you. It should have been like this from the beginning. Even if I die here, you will still be a bit of a nuisance. After listening, Lee JaHa reminded the young man to quickly go inside before things got worse. Although the boy was a bit stunned, he still listened to those words. The other guy looked at the little boy gingerly. When he sneaked in, he thought and planned a bit. Seeing that back, he quickly grabbed his chopsticks and shot them strongly in Jeonsam's direction. Maybe we need to test the level of the Jaha Clan master. What's going on? Lee JaHa couldn't turn a blind eye, so he took the initiative to save his life. The chopsticks shot with an arrow-like force when it suddenly stopped and hovered in the air. The boy expressed was shocked by that scene and unconsciously fell hard to the floor. The assassin tried to kill people with the most primitive tool, chopsticks. Both turned to look at each other with bullet-shaped eyes. Immediately, both sides understood what needed to be done. Both arms swung forward as if they were competing against each other. Because they were weaker, the other assassin was attacked. Knocked back, causing several tables and chairs to be broken into pieces. His face also vomited blood when his internal organs were seriously damaged. Because he knew he couldn't joke with someone crazy, so that guy pulled out his sword and prepared to attack. In contrast to that urgent expression, the male lead was the complete opposite. Now he can only sit leisurely, pour out wine and drink each cup. 1. Jeonsam saw all of that and felt very impressed. The boy understood one thing, that this was actually a gangster. While drinking, the male lead considered for himself what to do. Should he finish this bottle first or should he order another bottle? And he didn't pay any attention to the fact that the assassin was drawing his sword and slashing straight at his face. After that, Lee JaHa raised his hand to block like that. That's just a wooden stick. In terms of strength, that guy is not weak at all. He was skillful and survived for quite a long time when facing the master Jaha Clan. Or maybe it's because the demon is not famous yet. That's why the enemies always send some worthless guys to work. Compared to the experts I've met before, this group really has too many shortcomings. To show off Lee JaHa's strength, he passed it on internally. Force on the blade even though he tried to pull it back. The amount of heat radiated around made the air hotter. If the attack was equal, he could retreat at any time, but if the attack with such a huge battle history like this, it will be difficult for him to retreat. So anyone watching can see that the other person's face is very worried. His sweat started to flow down, blood from the mouth and nose also flowed out. Suddenly, a lot of urgent footsteps sounded from outside. It turned out that monsters who had never appeared in the neighborhood had to run to support their teammates. Wrap your hands in a bag. Thrown at Lee JaHa on the way, it revealed dozens of poisonous hidden weapons. With this method of action, the male protagonist successfully lured many enemies hidden around. There was no what is difficult when confronting such extremely simple things. Dark energy flies in, but just use Lee JaHa's internal force to control everything and fly to that weak assassin. The killer eye also screamed loudly because it was too late. That guy had accepted his fate and ended up picking dozens of hidden weapons from the fields. From the beginning he said that even if he died, he would not dying easily. Yet on the contrary, being killed by the weapons of the field is the most painful thing in the life of an assassin. Many hidden weapons pierced the body in the face, neck, shoulders and stomach, caused that body to collapse right in front of the master. He returned to his innocent expression. Why did you kill your accomplices? Will this rather tense confrontation, is it difficult for Lee JaHa to be a crazy person? If you want to know, please press the register button to continue following with us. The famous man in black in Wanderer, a master of gossip, lord of chatter, king of apricot blossoms is Lee JaHa. The concept of a man in black is a bit vague because not only is he a madman, but his martial arts are also very strong. According to my experience when fighting with top experts, most of the men in black real doctors are all crazy people. Because a truly strong expert will reveal their true self. Even if black people are highly rated, they are only ranked somewhere around the level of experts. That's all. However, the reason why I wanted to pretend to be someone in black who was superior to those people was because I wanted to get attention. It turns out that the male protagonist just wanted others to be aggressive towards him, that's all. It's too simple. It's true that Lee JaHa is number 2 in the world. No one dares to admit that number 1 is crazy. Maybe we need to pay attention because from the beginning the male lead is also dressed as one of the disciples' Black Cat Union. Tiny eyes with dark circles, sleepy face, crazy personality. It's too easy to identify the leader of Jaha Clan. As soon as he received this outfit from the subordinates of Black Cat Union, he prepared. Naturally, the spirit in my heart also becomes more excited than ever. And when I look at my clothes, I am confident that I can do more bad things than what I often do. After killing at the inn, the male lead returns and meditates. He doesn't know if he's already crazy like this or just moderately crazy. I'm immersed in meditate, calm down, study difficult principles such as what life is. Why do beauties hate me so much? My mind is full of pig bones, spring wine, bad guys, the river walkers, they were all mixed together in chaos. We also had to listen carefully to Lee JaHa because his thinking was very different from that of normal people. Then the room became quieter because no one answered. Those questions arise. Lee JaHa definitely needs to find the crazy monk master from his past life so that tomorrow he can cure this incurable disease. A moment later the door slowly opened and there was no one. Spoke up. Nam Garrick coldly walked over and didn't mince words and asked anything. The room was silent not because Lee JaHa wasn't talking but because he was so sleepy that he was drooling. Nanming Association, the master quickly asked if the master was busy sleeping. Then he immediately objected that there was no such thing. It seemed like they were both planning to go somewhere. Well done, Nanming Association's preparations were truly impeccable. Black the Cat Union is no different. Nam Garrick smiled indifferently in response. Each person has a different disguise, but in the end they're all masked. The male guild leader is a bit different. He looks like a pilgrim, not a man in black. Lee JaHa carefully observed this counterpart and also made a few comments. Of all the assassins who were on the same line, only Nam Garrick was completely covered up like that. Really? He thought that the other person's disguise was very rustic and that he didn't know anything about fashion. The guild master immediately threw his mother away and asked if he had any scarves to borrow. Withdraw from opening his chest. Lee JaHa remembered Byuk General Butler in this thing was as meticulous as him. Thinking about it, I wouldn't be so stupid as to give it away for free. Nam Guild Master. Both of them took the initiative to leave but Nam Garrick tell me to go to the main door to eat grapefruit, right from the window? Lee JaHa shakes his head. That's not necessary, or should he go up the stairs? Nam Garrick is worried that if he goes like that, it will be exposed for everyone to see, so what? Enjoying patience and endurance is the life of a master. Well, whatever, Nam Garrick had to hold back when walking with a crazy person. So the two followed the usual path but the way they dressed was quite strange. The objective on the first floor was horrified when they saw it. Lee JaHa gave a silver bar to the boss and told him to throw it away. Please help me with the furniture in the room. That's great, from now on no one will know our traces anymore. Of course no one will know, except for that inn owner. Just like that, the sect master and guild master leisurely walked out onto the street even though they were secretly acting. No one dared to believe that the men in black could be so obvious. They understood the masked people often do bad things and have mysterious movements, but these two people are completely different. On the street outside, when they saw the male protagonist and the guild master, they also started whispering. It was already dark but everyone was on their own. They all seemed afraid and did not dare to get in the way. Those who tried to glance at them also had to turn away and let the man in black roam around. Do you see that is the power and advantage of the man in black? Everyone immediately trembled as soon as they saw it. That's the morality of Gypsy. Stop joking with that serious tone, you guys make me feel so confused. Lee JaHa had to ignore it and remind Nam Garrick about his working methods. It's okay to light a fire. It's okay not to light it, just anger them at all costs. This sentence is too redundant because of the area where the male protagonist and that male guild leader is not a place that no one knows. After a while of traveling, the two arrived at the location that needed to be destroyed. Just as the plan had been created, the black-clothed couple did not sneak in after them. Normal ways like wall windows or camouflage. The male lead chooses a direct confrontation so everyone thinks he's crazy. What do those two bastards want to do? Are they crazy? The door guards mumbled to themselves. Lee JaHa also mumbled and reminded Nam Garrick to go now. It's been a long time since my blood has boiled like this. Nan Chin whoosh whoosh flew straight to the main gate even though he reminded Nam Garrick to go first. With a bang he used his fist to destroy the main gate. That object was reinforced with stainless steel half a meter thick so it was difficult to open it. Scarf. At the same time, we can hear the shocked voice of the Southern Guild Master because that was not the plan. Since one punch could not do anything, Lee JaHa used his energy to increase the ferocity. Dozens of consecutive punches pounded that innocent door. One could have asked the two guards to open it without wasting too much effort. They really don't understand this, it's really crazy. If you barge in like that, why would you dress like a man in black? Nam Garrick shouted loudly. Maybe wearing black clothes will help reduce Lee JaHa's madness a bit. Right away. At this moment, he was able to punch through the thick iron door that was blocking it. They all pretended to be crazy, but this was so scary. Nam Garrick was sweating because this was the first time. If I first see this type of person, he probably will never want to hang out with Lee JaHa again. The clothes I'm wearing make me 100% more crazy and that's just me. Just looking at what he did, everyone understood that a man in black would never act like that. Ignore my comment and the depressed attitude from Nam Garrick. The male lead still remained leisurely. Excited. Shouldn't the handsome man enter through the main gate? Immediately from inside came a loud voice warning of an intruder and even the dog in their house started barking. Up. The male guild leader hadn't done any business yet, so he took the opportunity to knock on the two guards at the door a few times. Then he rushed forward as if taking credit from the male protagonist. The guild leader laughed once, running like crazy, making Lee JaHa laugh. The dog still growled when looking at him but barked non-stop. Did the leader of the Jaha Clan come here to quarrel with the dog? It's not like that, that's why you shouted so loudly in the middle of the night, don't let the dog bark. Because he was afraid of dogs. Lee JaHa also gently jumped up on the wall to move easily. Just like that, everything became easier and there was no one to stop. The master of Jaha Clan jumped and walked, then found the highest position so he could observe more closely. The sky this night is unusually bright because of the moonlight shining down. Lee JaHa laughed like crazy, breaking the atmosphere and thus signaling the enemy's arrival. As expected, countless martial artists rushed forward, because they recognized that voice. It's incomprehensible that they couldn't be confused among so many people in black dressed identically. That's so simple when no one is crazy like the main male lead. He started to laugh bitterly and blame these guys for causing him to have sleepless nights. His anger increased even more when he was the leader of a great force and had to work so hard because of someone like him. So all I need to do is eat and sleep. The male lead continued to run and dance continuously, temporarily sparing the lives of the traitors. It can be described that this place is not a manor anymore but a palace because it is so large. That is also the reason why its owner did not hesitate to spend a large amount of money to call the police. Assassin assassinated Lee JaHa. And the male lead also respected those assassins and gave them the quickest and least painful deaths. However, the guild master probably made money by smoking only blood of the people and torturing them. While moving at high speed, the male protagonist was defeated by countless other martial artists. Led by a guy wearing a flashy red outfit, he thought it was possible that he was captain of the security team. Looking at his appearance, he is 30 years old, his eyebrows are always raised, which probably means he likes to intimidate others. That guy started to stop and ask who Lee JaHa was. And who had to come. This is a meaningless question that is not worthy of a dark-clothed person like me having to answer. It's funny to ask like that because most of the time, if you answer it, it won't be possible. Exactly, nearby, screams of fire alarms rang out continuously. Normally when your house is on fire, you would panic, but the expressions of the guys blocking the way were very calm. Maybe Nam Garrick did exactly what he had discussed with Lee JaHa, which was to make them angry to death. Let's capture that crazy guy alive, then torture us to find out who sent him here. As soon as the order was spoken, dozens of servants rushed to tear the male lead apart. They were so stupid to waste their lives in the hands of a madman. Attacking at the same time was also at the same time. Lee JaHa pulled out his sword and slashed him to death. Immediately the group had to stop because they saw that scene. Captured me alive with just that much strength? The male lead only spoke up now. Then a series of hidden weapons shot at him, slowing down his steps. Judging by the structure and behavior, we can see that the leader is in another area. Lee JaHa ran and swung his sword in a fan shape to neutralize the hidden weapons. After doing so, a door was right in front of him. There was no need to wait or ask permission for Lee JaHa to kick it. Throw it out and jump inside. From the side, what awaits him is a very dangerous sword strike. As soon as that number could do it, the male lead's free hand strangled him. Grabbed his throat. He mumbled and couldn't say anything, then a sword shot pierced straight into his chest. He pushed him deeper as a shield to protect his body from the rain of hidden gas. The scene in the room was torn up like a burglary, but there was no thief, only a crazy person breaking in. Lee JaHa's footsteps also became more urgent at this time. In South Garrick there was on this side, there is also a guy who uses qigong to create fire at the tip of the sword. After that, he sweeps a strong path into the places most likely to catch fire and explode. The entire hallway begins to be destroyed and spots of light appeared. Conveniently, dozens of guards also rushed to confront and block them. Not a single one of them was still breathing after seeing Lee JaHa's sleepy eyes. Used with incredible speed, he ran around the entire hallway until everything was destroyed. The way he acted was quite similar to a man in black, but it was a bit wrong. It was good to be quiet, but no one acting so blatantly and creating such chaos. In just a blink of an eye, the electric light collapsed and was engulfed in flames. And then Lee JaHa continued to move forward to do until the leader shows up. The guards are still standing there and it seems like they don't regret it at all. It was Dohang Sa who sent you, right? The leader continued to ask. Even if I admit that Dohang Sa sent me, they probably won't believe me, so it's best not to answer. Then a tall martial artist cleared his throat and walked straight towards the crowd. The words were quite harsh and everyone on that side seemed to know. The guy in the red outfit had requested that he be captured alive and cut off all his limbs to prevent further chaos. The person who had just arrived, this guy used a shoulder-high spear and he was dancing to show off Lee JaHa's power. He made a few sharp spear points towards him. It was surprising when the leader of the Jaha clan raised his head at that time. He surrendered with both hands, saying he couldn't win down there. His face showed an evil smile and asked him to put down his sword so someone could tie him up. This was too simple and it would work, as the unfortunate man wanted. Lee JaHa dropped the sword just like what he said. The tip of the sword was covered in blood and when it was about to stick firmly into the floor, something changed. Main problem hit the sword hard and according to inertial force it flew forward. Accompanied by a stream of internal air, a small hole was punctured in that guy's chest. And he wondered how the hell the crazy guy did. Is that possible? There was no pain at all. Only when I saw him did I realize that I had been injured. The remaining criminals had more scared expressions. So they were all tricked by the leader of Jaha Clan in a rather painful way. They probably didn't know that saying one thing and doing another is also one of the male protagonist principles. Just when the crowd was still confused and didn't know what to do, Lee JaHa already had a plan. No one was paying attention to the leader of the Jaha clan but only looked at the yawning body outside. Opportunity when he was ready, he jumped straight back to his place. The sword that was still stuck in his chest was now able to work as usual. Lee JaHa pulled so hard that blood flowed out without time to cover his chest. Understanding the situation, the remaining 3 or 4 martial artists also need to do something because of their own helplessness. The male protagonist continues to turn his body and make a few moves to scare them. There was no time to see anything, only the upper body of those guys was separated. The guys who had just arrived were also stopped at the same pace he did. The space became silent again. Silently, we heard the sound of saliva gurgling. The order was considered a weighty word for those below, but now it has no effect. The guy in the red outfit was able to. The so-called Heavenly Master must also be afraid when he sees his subordinates being brutally murdered. Suddenly there was a voice from behind the Heavenly Master. Has Dohang Saw arrived? He turned around, denied that he was just a mouse. Lee JaHa immediately threw the enemy's spear towards the source of the voice at high speed. Indeed, he had some strength when he couldn't block the attack with his bare hands. Very good. Can you catch a long spear with your bare hands and use the power of a millennium? After thinking about it, he used a weak voice again. What a bastard, the mission has failed. Let's run away. In fact, if that person is the leader of this place, then doing anything special is also expected story. But the male lead showed that he was weak and ran away, causing them to panic and chase after him. On the way there were also Nam Garrick's footsteps. Both didn't bother to say anything because they understood the situation, so they needed to retreat in silence. Perhaps both of them had confirmed the success with their own eyes. The current distance from those who are the pursued also gradually increased. Soon, the shouting was no longer heard, but two shadows safely jumped out of the fence. After finding a hidden bush, Lee JaHa asked also, can the Southern Guild leader burn many? I have burned more than 20 houses and tonight they will surely have a hard time. After hearing this, he immediately asked the other person to also return to Southern Heaven. Troople first. He was about to ask why, but the leader of Jaha Clan made a sign of silence. Nam Garrick understood the meaning, so he stopped asking. After doing so, the figure of the guild leader Nam disappeared, walking behind the deep night. Then a moment later there was a light wind, the tree branches swaying violently, signaling bad things. You think you can escape from here behind a master dressed in uniform? The red suit appears. He has a long beard but not pure white like in theory, and his face is not too old to be about 70 years old. I must be sure that my acting ability is effective. Or is it because the owner of the Supreme Sword Association is a master so he can catch up and his subordinates can't? Even though he doesn't want to do anything now, the big fish is standing in front of him. After thinking about it, the male protagonist speak up, hurry up, that bald guy looks quite strong. Maybe because of his appearance Lee JaHa understood that that person wouldn't be the type to die quickly, so he felt quite satisfied. Why are you the only one who was betrayed, or was this a coincidence? This bald guy in the dark world always has to be careful with people like me. He felt quite tired when he spent so much time chasing and encountered a guy who talks too much. In this world, betrayal has no meaning. After all, the strong will get everything. So that's it. Thank you for your golden words. How many words have you received? The person who commissioned him came here to cause chaos. He continued to use words and eyes to threaten Lee JaHa, hoping he would tell him who was behind everything. The answer was a bit lacking when the male lead only opened his mouth and replied that he had received 39,800 silver debt. Maybe just that was enough for him. And of course maybe he wouldn't expect this man in black to reveal who he was. Mastermind. Anyway, he's just a greedy guy because the trust fee I paid is twice as much as you. Kill the person who ordered you to assassinate me. The reason he talks so long is because he's waiting for us. The subordinates came, even though I had many things to say, but to be worthy of being a man in black with a tight-lipped tongue, I could only swing my sword first. After thinking about it, Lee JaHa pulled out his sword and rushed forward without warning. He took charge, quite fast, so in just a split second he was close to him. Both of them cut and slashed a few times and then entered the basic position. Breath began to pour out from the Dantian into an unmatched internal force. Started. With a bang, a cloud of dust and smoke began to appear, causing us to stand in a corner and not see anything. From there, the figure of the other guy was knocked back. With the aura of being the main character, Lee JaHa leisurely crossed his arms in satisfaction. Was he startled yet by that old bald guy? Halfway through the sentence, the male protagonist had to stare wide-eyed when he saw his face. This guy looks like a red squid standing on two legs in the night. Why do you look at me like so? Are the two words evil truly worthy of him? Actually, his appearance made the male protagonist feel uncomfortable but somewhat impressed. He turned an indifferent person into the leader of a force into confusion and fear. Seeing Lee JaHa's wandering eyes, he rushed forward. Don't even think about running away, bald head. The figure began to move at high speed. The sword was also full of energy, making him startled. He tried to avoid the killing moves that the male protagonist used. While chopping and slashing Lee JaHa, he talked about red squid, red octopus, octopus head. The sound of metal hitting each other sparked fire but was drowned out. Go by Lee JaHa comparing his opponent to a sea creature that we often catch as bait for drinking. The guild master started to feel both angry and tired when he heard himself being called bald-headed and red-cheeked. On the other hand, this also shows that him wanting to run away is not the best option. While fighting, Lee JaHa also felt stunned by his nonsense words. Bald man, his face turned red like a monkey eating chili peppers, and he started to protest strongly. This squid is so easy to defeat, although it's a bit long and nonsense. It doesn't distract the male lead's opponent's concentration, which is enough. If he wasn't the type of person who gets shaken when body shaming, it would be difficult, but that face shows that he's lost his temper to the extreme. Supreme Sword Association's assets will be scattered everywhere. Lee JaHa just fighting and gossiping. At this time you talk more than usual, your subordinates will become soulless corpses. And the southern heavenly troople will also be in tatters when dealing with you. As for me, is it okay to be the person in the middle who will be a profitable fisherman? Actually, the male protagonist remembered that in the past, he saw a fisherman catch 2 fish at the same time but didn't know which fish to sell, so he chose to sell them both for a profit. As soon as his limbs were healed, starting to get tired, Lee JaHa used his sword to go through the guy's arm, causing a lasting wound to be created. Faced with this incident, the male protagonist continued to use the technique he himself had come up with. Absorbing stars. The method not only absorbs internal energy, but it also absorbs everything the caster wants. He took a step back and then stretched out his hand towards the bleeding wound. Immediately, his energy shot straight towards him. In response to this move, the body began to be sucked back. Blood continued to flow out without having time to stop the acupuncture points and meridians. Amount of blood withdrawn, the wound coming out from the wound increased rapidly. The Supreme Sword Association's master, who was normally reserved for words, now groaned in pain. He had never seen such a cruel technique, and it was used by a man in black who often babbles nonsense. The night was pitch black, but the smell of blood was strong around him. It was like all the blood in his body was being drained. His entire old, weak body, with little martial arts skills, was now knocked down and dragged along. Lee JaHa quickly grabbed his lower legs and quickly threw them to the ground. His whole body was no longer alive. He was so tall and weak that he was beaten like a rattan whip. Because his ankle was twisted and crushed, he started screaming non-stop. Just like that, Lee JaHa repeated 4 to 5 more times, and he suddenly realized that he couldn't grab his hair because he was bald. The ground was broken, but regardless, the male lead still tortured the ruined body that no longer showed any signs of life. Several times. That also made his arms tired, so he immediately let him breathe easily. Once again the male lead fumbled and tried to grab his head. As mentioned before, the bald head now the shadow dances due to sweat. That's why even if you want to do it the usual way, you can't do it. It turns out that bald people have such an advantage. Instead of grabbing Lee JaHa's head, he chooses to press it. She took the lead and squeezed him so tightly that he cried out like he was choking. Faced with the miserable face that had given him sleepless nights, Lee JaHa became angry. "You bastard! How dare you send assassins to assassinate me? You guys have made me tired to death, please sleep comfortably." The guild master trembled again as if he didn't understand the meaning and tried to ask who the male lead was. "The leader of Jaha Clan is me." Here, Lee JaHa gives him a clear answer. A person who is about to die only needs to know that it is like that, and you don't need to hear the explanation. The star absorption technique is applied to his entire body. Silenced screams rang out because the pain had invaded the entire body. After a while of struggling, there was nothing left for Lee JaHa to swallow. He coldly dropped that dry, lifeless body onto the cold ground. When that body became useless, the male lead silently looked into space as if he was praying for his opponent. Because he didn't, intending to punch each other like crazy people, so the sect leader tried to hold back. "Let's see, Even if the sect master has the luck to attack quickly, why hasn't his army arrived yet? Is it possible that are you planning on waiting until the guild master dies? As he spoke, the male protagonist jumped aside to grope for the sword of the Supreme Sword Association guild master. Did you know that you were killed by an influential person? Second or not? It's strange, when Lee JaHa was asking a corpse, he also knew that it was dead, so how could he answer? Until he did this, perhaps everyone understood the image of the omen. It was so quiet that the Heavenly Master, when he threw the knife, he gently blocked it, but no one paid attention at that time because it was too confusing. This is quite normal for an expert. No, it's no surprise that when they punch each other without using their heads, the Heavenly Master is like someone with a voice. He must have arranged the entire situation that led to the guild master's death. Later, the male protagonist went to Blue Eye Transport Company sent packing and took the opportunity to find a pub to drink. He placed the sword of that unfortunate guild master on the table, scaring the people of the bureau. Everyone worked inside. Everyone knows who this item belongs to but still hasn't dared to speak up. This is a gift that I want to send to the Southern Heavenly Trouble as quickly as possible. All costs are charged to me. A bit rude, but may I ask who the owner of this sword is? Receiving this question, the male protagonist did not even think and answered that it was the bald man's sword. So can you tell me who that bald man is? Lee JaHa felt discouraged and yawned looking around this cramped room. I only came here to send things, but I don't understand why the attitude of those people is so respectful. I said, what's more, this sword belongs to the bald guy who used it. We need to confirm whether it was stolen or not because it doesn't look like a normal long sword. Rest assured, it's not me where to steal but the sword of the Supreme Sword Association's master. Hearing this name, the other three immediately stopped their actions and turned to look at Lee JaHa. Just seeing that expression, he understood. This fortune teller has something to do with the Supreme Sword Association. Why is your attitude so gloomy? Is this thing so strange? The leader of the Supreme Sword Association died and liked the person who was working and suddenly became afraid to ask. He tried to ask but didn't get the answer he wanted. So in the end, said that it seems you know about our fate involving the Supreme Sword Association and what you want. I said let's transfer this guild master's sword to the Southern Heavenly Trouble. I see the matter of bringing it to the Heavenly Trouble is in so much trouble that they brought it to the latest ending. Could it be that they came to the wrong place? Your job is to move things, so please do your work as usual. After that, give me a room because I need to go to sleep for a while now. Do you know how many sleepless nights the assassins sent by the Supreme Sword Association gave me? If the Heavenly Master of the Supreme Sword Association comes looking for me, please say you didn't see me. It seems like he betrayed the guild master and wants to blame it all on me, so he's probably looking for. After talking for a while, no one dared to speak up. What's going on after I go on vacation? Don't tell anyone to attack you. I'm the one who killed the leader of the Supreme Sword Association because it's ruining my sleep. It's crazy that no one who committed the crime has confessed to the crime and detailed the reason for killing the victim, except for Lee JaHa, the leader of the Jaha Clan. After that, Namhi leisurely jumped into bed and went to sleep because the bureau had already arranged a place to stay. As soon as he fell asleep, he smelled a fragrant scent somewhere. Lee JaHa had to try to rub his eyes. Because he was afraid of the smell of poison, he naturally understood what the smell was. At this time, downstairs, the people of the bureau were happily having a meal discussing countless things. The space became silence immediately when the male lead kicked open the door and rushed into the restaurant. Everyone's attitude became stiff and they did not dare to swallow their food when they saw that crazy guy dressed like an assassin. No one needed I had to invite Lee JaHa to sit down at a table and ask me to make something for me. Most of them didn't dare to disobey, so they had to listen. A person sitting next to them also gently took a pair of chopsticks. For Lee JaHa. While trembling as he picked up the food, Director Xiao said that the object had been transported since last night. He said as he lowered his head and looked at the male lead's movements of picking up food. The Supreme Sword Association and the Southern Heavenly Trouble are about to fight. What's the big deal? Even if the Southern Heavenly Trouble wins, we still very worried. Hearing this sentence, Lee JaHa continued to ask directly why. There are rumors that Dohang Saw is willing to kill someone unconditionally if that person dares to displease him. If he increased the tribute fee, we wouldn't dare disobey. We thought it was something that was nerve-wracking, but it turns out that this department is afraid of having to pay more protection fees if the Southern Heavenly Troople wins. Lee JaHa put down his chopsticks and proactively spoke up to General Tu Do. Do you think the leader of the Supreme Sword Association will be different? They're all the same. Anyway, it's true because it doesn't matter who's in power. What's important is that they'll suck the blood of all the innocent people. It's early in the morning and we're still eating also. Do you need to talk about money? You people have lived in luxury, good food and warm clothes, all thanks to a lot of tribute money pouring in from everywhere. Aren't the Supreme Sword Association and Blue Eye Transport Company growing strong with a lot of tribute money and no need to pretend to me? Like that. If you've been clinging to the underworld to keep yourself warm and fed all this time, it's best to keep your mouth shut. Later my subordinates will find those who relied on Supreme Sword Association. I will wait for a report on your business situation. If you continue to mistreat or treat people like slaves, then it will not end peacefully with a meal like today. Now is not the time for you to worry about Dohang Saw, but you should be afraid that I will come back. After hearing this, Tong Tu Do suddenly realized that besides those two forces, there was still another force. Another shadowy force and is led by a born madman. If the Supreme Sword Association wins, I will deal with their remaining faction, and if the Southern Heavenly Troople wins, I will defeat or kill Dohang Saw. At that time there will be no more paying tribute. We are not like Dohang Saw or the Supreme Sword Association because we do not need money, but if you dare to go beyond the limit, don't blame me for sending you all to pay homage to your ancestors and continue to pay tribute to him. The master of the Supreme Sword Association in the afterlife. While threatening Lee JaHa while enjoying the hot and delicious food here. Who is today's chef? He can cook quite well, is that right? Just like that, the male lead casually made 3 to 4 more bowls of rice even though the atmosphere was now gloomy, but no one dared to move their chopsticks. Suddenly a brave person spoke up and said he was the one who came. From where does it seem like it's not Vo Lam Min? Why isn't it Vo Lam Min? Do I look so incompetent? The opponent is scared and thinks to himself that he belongs to the martial arts union. No. I don't come from such an unlucky place. It's so amazing that even those who want to know don't even bother to ask instead of being scared forever. I come from a place near Manhwa. When I heard this sentence, brother. I am sure that Manhwa has a master who is famous for being cruel but sadistic, and that is the great Rakshasa. How famous is that, even his disciples, the 12 divine generals, are equally famous. So you're from Manhwa. The young man who raised the chopsticks had to speak it first. I'm not from that place, but I'm there to kill the great Rakshasa and also take the lives of half of the 12 god general. It's interesting to talk about this topic while eating rice. Aren't you curious about how they died? No one dared to ask any more, so Lee JaHa tried to finish the bowl. Clam soup. Today's food is quite good. How much does it cost? Why do we dare to accept your money? He saved our lives and even explained the situation to us. A life is a life. If you gave it to us, we have to pay the fee, so please say how much. Total cost hastily said that after spending 2 taels of silver, the male lead's face turned black. Why is it so expensive? Don't look at me from the countryside and think I don't know anything. Knowing that he was in a difficult position, he sadly asked for the cost of 1 tael. Just silver is fine. Pulling out his small wallet, the male lead released 2 pieces of silver as usual. He paid both the transportation fee and the cost of meals and accommodations. Leave the amount below. General Tu held his head with both hands holding his fists, thanking you for your mercy. Please convey the message to the cleaning merchants and the Supreme Sword Association that they are about to be destroyed, so please return to the way you were before. No need to pay tribute. You just need to go back to work like normal merchants. If you dare to speculate on goods again, I will come and take their lives. This time he didn't dare to question anymore but could only nod. Head shaking. Tell them that if they dare to do illegal business again, I will send my subordinates to immediately assassinate. I will convey the words according to your wishes, but I should tell you who you are. I will convey the words as you wish, but I should tell you who you are. The person who killed the Supreme Sword Association's master stayed here for 1 night and then left after breakfast. Lee JaHa roared loudly. Breaking the heavy atmosphere, he said that he was a true man in black. The whole group began to fear not because of the name but because of the madness of this mysterious person. Tong Tiu Do, listen clearly, anyone who dares to contact the river walkers will be captured and killed by me, or at least must reveal some information about the river walkers to be spared and have no choice. I will accurately recount everything you said right here. Before that, please tell me where you usually contact them. General Tiu immediately panicked. You can't do double-faced things when you talk about the bureau. Just do what I say or else I'll stay here until you all confess. By the way, I also have to learn how to become a target. Isn't that right? Chief Tiu Do thought he'd better hurry up, because if this crazy guy stays one more day, this department will go bankrupt. There are rumors that Cloudy Moon Brothers hired assassins to kill everyone. Factions opposing them. I think it's a place where monks often go. Those who have full control of business in Zhengpyeong Lake, this is the place the male protagonist needs to go. It's true, there's no need to talk too much. Just lie down and make trouble here for a little bit and the Blue-Eyed Transport Company will spit it all out. First of all, please prepare a monk's uniform for me because of this. It's so dirty. Later, everyone was fully prepared and also told the male protagonist what he needed to do. He left Blue-Eyed Transport Company and wandered the streets with countless conflicting thoughts. From a man dressed in black to a young monk carrying a leather bag containing a black horse on his shoulder, plus a perfect outfit, anyone who looks at him will know that he is an extremely handsome monk. Yesterday a classy man in black, today he has become an elegant monk. I trudged slowly like a lazy monk and began my lonely journey. Like a standard young man. Society's standards, Lee JaHa slowly walked to the destination he knew from the words of General Tiu Do. The target was the black horse on his shoulder. The destination was Cloudy Moon Brothers in Zhengpyeong Lake. Most people went everyone on the street and the traders on the street were speechless when they saw a man with a sleep-deprived face muttering some random things. The passerby looked like a psychopath. Everything has changed his face when Lee JaHa wanted the Jaha Clan leader to become a real black man. Just because the plan was changed, he now disguised himself as a delivery person and that made the guys save. Attention thugs on the street. Every time you walk along the southeast side of Zhengpyeong Lake, the number of traders decreases significantly and right now an arm is planning to grab a bag on the male lead's shoulder. Immediately that means he turned around and held the hoodlum's hand tightly. Without needing to listen to the explanation, an explosive slap was printed directly on his face.